This is Gareth Southgate, and this is the Three Lions podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Three Lions podcast. My name is Russell Osborne and this is an independent England football supporters podcast. I have landed in Poland, England's latest fixture. Whilst I'm here in Poznan, I've got a train to catch down to the city of Wrocław. Of course we're actually playing Ukraine, but for obvious reasons the game is being played in Poland. Now, last time we played in Poland was September 2021 in a Nations League game that ended 1-1. Officially, there were no England fans there that day because of COVID restrictions, but plenty made the trip. Before that, it was the infamous 2012 game in the rain in Warsaw. Personally, that was the last time I visited Poland, and I didn't even see the game that day, so I'm hoping for a better outcome this time. It is blazing hot. There's no need for me to have bought this jumper. Lovely and warm, lovely and sunny. I'm hoping that the train is going to have air conditioning. I'm currently looking for my platform 7. I think it must be this one. It's a slow one, unfortunately. But it'll get me into Wrocław, pick up my ticket, dump my bag and head on to the game. And here we are, the city of Wrocław. Fairly pleasant journey down through rural Poland on Pole Regio, which I'd imagine translate to regional Poland. Lots of fields growing sweet corn, lots of hay bales stacked just as we see back home, fields of solar panels too. I was to say my journey was fairly straightforward. A little mention for some fans who I see had to change planes 2 or 3 times without even taking off. And that I saw on Twitter. Oh dear. Thankfully, I didn't have anything like that. Also on Twitter, I saw a post by the guys from Block 109 yesterday, the day before the game. They went and donated some books and some Android tablets to a local Polish cancer charity in a hospital, I believe it was, in Wrocław. I'm hoping to chat with CJ Joyner once again later in this episode, and hopefully he'll just explain a little more about that. But I'm going to go and collect my ticket now. I'm cutting it a bit fine, so I'm going to try and collect my ticket, find my accommodation, dump the bag, and find how to get to the ground. So I've collected my ticket. I've made it into the ground. It was a bit of a journey getting into the ground here in Wrocław. Tram broke down. There was a bit of walking, get back on another tram, and then struggling to find the entrance to get into the away section. Could see all these people going into it, coming out of an underground stairwell. I just couldn't find how to get to that stairwell. But I made it in. Into an arena. I don't know the name of this ground. Or I can see it, but I'm not going to attempt to pronounce it. But it's a bowl. It's all like light green. The sun is coming down on the side of the pitch. The spectators on the side of the pitch. I can imagine they're going to be having their hands over their eyes. But England have got a section in one corner on the corner flag. Behind obviously one of the goals. Already there's a lot of England flags around. I can see Scunthorpe United, there's an Arsenal one there. We've got Ipswich Town Blue Army, Hereford FC from the cider country, Sunderland Club and Country, who's that one? Harrow White. On the other side, Live Forever, Birmingham City, Stoke-on-Trent, Milton Keynes one down the bottom there. It's 25 minutes until kick-off. It's not full by any stretch of the imagination at the moment, but as I say, with a few tram issues. I'm wondering if it's going to slow down a few people. Coming into the ground, it just appears it's like a massive circular building, stadium, with like netting around it. And I'm looking down on the people coming in already, and there's already a mass queue of people coming in the entrance that I did. Whether it'll be full remains to be seen, but we are 25 minutes away from kick-off. So as the teams emerge from the tunnel, on the pitch, there's a large yellow Ukraine shirt over the centre circle, 2 blue banners either side of it. As the teams go around to line up on the scoreboard it's got peace, and then peace in Ukrainian alongside it. Plenty of Ukraine flags lifted. Lots of Ukrainian flags lifted up all around the stadium as their anthem is played. Disappointing just to hear a couple of boos there. Quite a sight. Minutes, Ukraine have scored. It had been coming for a little while, to be honest. We pushed and probed for a little while, nothing came of it, and then Ukraine started to play. They had a couple of goes, started to get the crowd going, and ultimately they've just put themselves one up. A few flares in the Ukraine end. Disappointing. We had the vast majority of the play for the first 15-20 minutes, but done nothing with it. We just allowed Ukraine to come into the game. So just when we thought we'd scored, we had a VAR goal check. We finally put the ball in the net. Harry Kane had dropped so deep. People around us saying, what's Harry Kane doing dropping so deep? Well, he springs a cross through, which I think was it Jude Bellingham. I think it was Jude Bellingham. Picked it up on the other side, smashed it home. VAR check over. Goal stands. I hate VAR. That intervening time, waiting. Anyway, it's 1-1. It's Carl Walker. It's Carl Walker that scored. I don't know what game I was watching. It's half time. England kind of pressed and probed for a while with pretty much nothing to show for it. And then I think, as I said earlier, when Ukraine scored 20 minutes, they started to sort of pick the ball up, move around a bit, got the crowd going, and ultimately scored. I don't know if there was anyone at fault for it, but I think it was just a case of they passed their way through the England defence and slotted past Pickford, really. Basically, we didn't do the simple stuff. I don't know, Jude had some nice touches, but nothing really came of it. He came under some heavy pressure at times. James Maddison looked lively, but there's a fine line between lively and sort of getting overexcited, and needlessly got himself booked. And then England scored. Good say it was against the run of play. Was it deserved? I think we're lucky to be going in 1-1 at half time. Let's hope that we can pick things up for the second half and get 3 points out of this. But it's a nice ground, this. I like this. It's just a one tier all the way round. It's full now. I think I said earlier that it didn't look as though it would be full, but it is full. The Ukrainians have filled it out, and it appears you get a good view pretty much from wherever you are standing, sitting. So about the game, the second half was pretty dismal, to be honest. Most exciting moment, I guess, was when Saka hit the bar, turned, didn't he, and shot. I don't know if the keeper got a hand to it, but it certainly looked like it hit the bar from where I was standing. Southgate made some changes. I think there was Rashford for Bellingham, Foden for Maddison, and Gallagher for Saka. But none of them really had a major impact, to be honest. And whilst Kane supplied the cross for Walker to score, I don't remember him having any real opportunities of note, I don't think. Ukraine will be the happier of the two, because with Italy drawing with North Macedonia, it keeps them in second place in the group at the moment. And I mean, a point away from home isn't necessarily a bad thing. It was just more the performance, I think. It was just a bit limp, really. Yes, we stay top with qualification pretty much assured. I don't think it's guaranteed just yet, but when you've been used to 4 out of 4 wins and good performances, when a performance like this comes around, it's frustrating. And I know performances like this do happen, and it's impossible to keep up that 100% performance all the time. And I know in the past we've won groups with a 100% record, but yeah, it's just more a frustrating thing, I think. But if going into the Scotland game off of a performance like that, it's not overly encouraging, I don't think. Although it could work in a reverse factor, couldn't it? Poor performance, they get a bit of a telling off, and they go into the Scotland game and produce a worldie. Who knows? One thing I'd like to mention, coming out of the ground, once again funneled into a stairwell and back under the concourse and back out into the open, we passed a fair few Ukrainians who were standing, I don't know, might have been 6-7 foot above us, generally all waving flags, but applauding us as we passed them by. And you just can't help think of the journeys that many of them must have been on, this past 18 months, maybe a little less, both physically and mentally. You pass them whilst they're all clapping. You wonder how personally they must have been affected. You can't help but applaud back, wish them well, and I guess the 90 minutes football has been a welcome distraction for them. And who knows? Let's say with that result, there is a chance that they could be at the Euros next year. What a national morale boost that could be. And just on a personal note, following on from the preview episode where I mentioned the passing of my friend Trevor Eastall, who would have been here. He had flights, he had accommodation booked. It was really nice to speak with a couple of other England fans who also knew him and share that grief. And a couple of other people just thank you very much for the condolences that you passed on. So it's 7:15 Sunday morning, day after the game. I've just got up, going to make my way into the sunshine and head my way back to Poznan. I figured I'm going to spend the day in Poznan because that's where my flight is going back from. So I'm in like a stable place. So I've got a better chance of getting the flight rather than leaving Wrocław here later on. I get the chance to explore Poznan. But yeah, it's, as I said, 7:15 and the Wrocław is still going. I've just come out of my hostel there. Music's still pumping out. Funky town. It's like lip sync. I think that was. So I'm going to make my way towards the station, see if I can get either a bus or a train, and we'll go from there. It's a busy old place, this actually, Wrocław. It clearly is a student town. Lots of students around, lots of people milling on in the old square, which unfortunately this place I didn't really get to explore because it was just a bit of a rush yesterday. But as we speak, this is where I am walking through now, and it's kind of like it's got that sort of Prague ring to it. Street cleaners up already, cleaning the mess from yesterday. It's important to say that's not just from England fans. As I say, it's a student town, a lot of students. I guess it's probably beginning of term. What do they call it? Freshers' Week. But yeah, old buildings with balconies on them. You make your way into the main square. And it's like on an L shape. There's a fountain over there in the corner. Some buildings, sort of bright yellow, bright pink, like a light orangey colour. Some flags in the middle. Polish flag, obviously. There's the EU flag, Ukraine flag, and the Wrocław flag. That looks like. It's like the main church in the centre, with a main clock on it, which almost like got a sundial on it. Lots of turrets, sort of greened off as they've just aged. Now, I saw a couple yesterday, a couple of gnomes or dwarves. As you may remember in the preview episode, I spoke with Robert and he said that there are lots of dwarves dotted all around. There they are. Lots of dwarves dotted all around the city. Let's go and have a look at this one. It's right by this church. And this is a blind one. He's got a walking stick. One's in a wheelchair, and one's cupping his hand to his ear. So there's three of them in a row. Obviously all suffering with various issues. But yeah, three of them here. I'll put a photo on the Twitter page or the Facebook page just so you can see this one. But there are loads of these dotted all around the city. It's a city that, I think I'll maybe one day I'll come back and properly appreciate. As one of the local trams goes past, it's going to Stadion Olimpski, which you'd assume will be the Olympic Stadium. Was my turn to cross there. Why does every sort of large town have an Olympic stadium? As far as I'm aware, Wrocław never had the Olympics. It's one of these things that I've observed over the years. And there's another one of those dwarves there. Tiny thing, they're only 10, 12 inches high. Bronze. And welcome to Glasgow, the largest city in Scotland, both in size and population. Famous for its whisky and shipbuilding back in the day. It may not have the charm of Wrocław or the weather, although having said that, it's quite warm today, a little muggy, a bit cloudy, but it is warm. But this is the city that hosted the very first international football match all the way back on the 30th of November 1872 between Scotland and England. It's this game that is celebrating the 150th anniversary. So just as I did in Poland, I need to go and collect my ticket. Ticket collected. Quick chat with the guys at the travel club, doing a good job. I just wanted to add something to the Ukraine game in Poland. I watched the highlights of it yesterday, Nothing that I saw really changed my mind about the performance, although I didn't realise we should have had a penalty in the second half by the letter of the law, shouldn't we? He's handled the ball in the box, penalty. I've seen them given. But anyway, by the by, we only got a point. Right, now I'm going to go for a quick wander to somewhere that, I don't know, means a little bit to me, I guess. And I'll tell you what it is in a minute. I'm walking along the street here, and over there it is, to my right, a sort of beigey building, 3 stories, some steps going up to a black door, but underneath the bay window, underneath it, is King Tut's Wawa Hut. It's the best UK live venue, apparently, according to Radio 1 on the outside of it. For those of you that don't know, King Tut's Wawa Hut was where Oasis, my personal favourite band, basically put themselves, or blagged their way into the venue one evening. And basically, I think this was where Alan McGee of Creation Records spotted them. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's open, but it is it's a venue, bar, cafe. So I'm going to go and have a quick look at it. So I've gone for a bit of a wander after going up to see King Tut's Wawa Hut there. Walked myself down St Vincent Street, I think this is, and found myself in George Square, which is right by, I think it's Queen Street Station. And if I haven't been to Glasgow for, I don't know, a few years now. I've probably only been 3-4 times before, but you forget how sort of maybe dark and imposing it is, and I mean that in like a nice way. I mean that sort of like architecturally. The buildings are sort of fantastic. They're like sort of a like sandstony sort of colour, and they're sort of they hang over the roads as you walk down them. And one thing I always say to like my daughter, the best things to see is look up. Always sort of look up, and you sort of look up at these buildings. They're so fabulous, like architecturally, and it's kind of like what Glasgow is sort of, I don't know, is what I think of when I come to Glasgow. But yeah, I've seen plenty of Scotland fans in their shirts, some plenty of kilts already, feathers in the hats. I think it's going to be a good atmosphere tonight. I think I'm going to go and get something to eat, have a drink maybe, and then find my way towards Hampden Park. So last time I came to Glasgow, I had a battered Mars bar. I decided against that today, and I've went for some battered ribs and chips. It was all right. It was okay. I mean, it wasn't really ribs that I was expecting. More the consistency of Spam. But anyway, that'll fill me up. One thing I was going to just try and do before I go to the station, I've noticed that around Glasgow there are quite a lot of murals. I've seen a couple already. There was one, sort of a woman with a magnifying glass pinching her fingers together, and you can almost stand underneath it and take the picture, and you are what she's sort of pinching up whilst looking through the magnifying glass. There's another one of a taxi with some balloons on. I know recently they actually up here there was a Banksy exhibition, which is a shame I didn't get to come and see that. I quite like my Banksys, I have to be honest. But I'm just going to go and see if I can find one or two more of these murals before I end up catching the train. I must admit, the bagpipes have never really been my favourite instrument of choice, but there's a young lad there doing the bagpipes, and fair play to him. He must only be 14, 15. So into Hamden, I find myself fairly straightforward getting here, to be honest. I'm in the section behind the goal. You can almost the section is slightly smaller than what we had last time. We're in it's like the red seats and a bit of blue and white, but all I think it was 2,900 we've been given for this game. But as you look around the stadium, what are we at the moment? It's 20 to 7. It's just over an hour until kick-off. Obviously, there's not so many people here at the moment. The blue seats to my right, where the dugouts are, there's a bit of red, and there's the Scottish flag in the seats right opposite me with the scoreboard high up above. As you come round, I'm looking on the opposite side, there looks like there's going to be some sort of presentation with some gold flags that they've got in the stand ready for people to wave, and then we are sort of next to the Scottish fans with a line of police in between, but as always there's plenty of England flags already up. There's a Coventry one, a Norwich one, Milton Keynes Tottenham that I saw in Poland is there, it's Rotherham, Jimmy Lockett, it's a Stoke one there, Swindon, plenty of Crystal Palace one as well, plenty of England flags adorning Hampden Park. Obviously there's one or two Scottish ones as well. Unsure of the team as yet. The only rumour I've heard is that Aaron Ramsdale is in goal, but we'll wait to see and find out if that is just a rumour. I think it's probably an opportunity for Gareth to change it around a little bit. So we have a team sheet that's come in, and as I said, Aaron Ramsdale is in for Jordan Pickford in goal. Kyle Walker retains his place. Kieran Trippier in for Ben Chilwell. Declan Rice there. Mark Gay and Lewis Dunk are your centre backs. So Harry Maguire is on the bench. Phil Foden starts. Calvin Phillips starts. Of course, Harry Kane is there. Jude Bellingham is there as well, and Marcus Rashford finishes the starting 11. So yeah, he's experimenting with a couple, you would imagine, especially those centre halves in Mark Gay and Lewis Dunk. Just going to hope that it's enough. And that is the sound of the England team coming out to warm up. Teams coming out. It's a Tifo on the other side. 150 years of history, rivalry and passion in gold lettering to a blue background. There's flames going off the other side. We're about to have the national anthems. Nerves now are starting to kick in. It is really more than a friendly, this one, isn't it? Come on, England.
Final 2-0.
makes it 3-1.
There we go then. For the 49th time, we have overcome the old enemy, Scotland. They've still not beaten us since 1999. I genuinely thought last night was their best opportunity in a long time. That famous Hampden Roar was there on occasions last night. And when the Tartan Army, they get going in unison, it can have that choir-like feel to it. But come the end of the first half and the beginning of the second, at times, you could hear a pin drop. Now, the first half began almost with two sides, I guess, almost sparring each other. Foden had the first real effort, but that was skied over the bar. However, his next one, that hit the target, and quickly followed by Jude Bellingham's efforts, who once again had a great game. In fact, I was chatting to someone on the way to the ground about Foden. I can't remember your name, actually, other than he came from the Isle of Wight, saying that whilst Foden is obviously a great player, he doesn't seem to have really sort of played his Manchester City form for England on a regular basis. Well, maybe he did last night. Kind of felt that we never really had to reach for top gear. And without the likes of Grealish, Trent, Stones, Pickford, and starting with both Duncan, Gay, Phillips too, whilst not a second-string side, it wasn't a starting 11 by any stretch. Ramsdale proved that he was more than adequate in only his fourth cap, putting behind him his nightmare at Molineux last year. I heard a few intakes of breath at times from fans around me, but he's so confident with his feet, isn't he? And one of his kicks, from just in front of us, the fans, a superb crossfield ball to the feet of Bellingham. He's not going to take Pickford's jersey just yet, but to perform like that won't do his chances any harm at all, will it? And the second half saw Gareth swap Mark Gay for Harry Maguire, much to the amusement of the Scottish fans, who tried their hardest to provoke him. On the pitch, he had so much time when he was given the ball, wasn't he? Unfortunate with the own goal. I say unfortunate, watched it back. It did seem a little bit lazy in his body shape. Ramsdale, though, could do very little about it. But Gareth had some strong words on those that have criticised him of late. This, courtesy of Sky Sports News.
Well, I think he's just come out and spoken to the media, which shows the resilience and the character of him. We're now in a situation where, because of people in our own country, the opposition think they can have fun with him. So what's that about? He's been an incredible player for England in one of the most successful teams we've had. Critical for what we've been doing. And we allow him to be open to that. It's a joke, absolute joke. It makes me livid because thankfully he's got the support of the dressing room and people behind him. And I thought the England fans in the stadium tonight were absolutely brilliant. So I have no problem with the Scotland fans; they're having fun. But what stirs that up? People around in our own country. Other players will think, well, is that what awaits us at certain times? So, great credit to him that he managed to show the composure with the ball and keep the ball and put that one moment behind him, because we stabilised the game really well after it.
And it was shortly after the goal, it was when that Hampden Roar came back. I think they attacked down the wing. What a noise, a real sound of encouragement. Fortunately, though, it didn't come to anything. And then with 10 minutes to go, Bellingham again controlling the ball and sliding it through to Kane to finish the game off. I don't know, was that maybe his one and only clear-cut chance? Bellingham, though, just 20. He's not anywhere near the finished article yet, is he? Which is scary for his opponents. And also, I guess He hasn't even bulked out properly yet. He's only just come out of his teenage years. Amazing. You just know there's much more to come. I hope Real Madrid and their fans appreciate such a good player that they have. Lucky lot, seeing him week in, week out. And as fans, there is nothing like beating your nearest of neighbours, is there? In fact, we've not lost to any of Scotland, Wales or Northern Ireland since 2005, when David Healy scored in Belfast for Northern Ireland. And it got me thinking, actually. There's 2 friendlies generally every 2 years in March, I think it is. Could all the home nations play each other once then? All hypothetical, but say we play Wales away this coming March, and then as rumoured a South American side too. But whilst we play Wales, Scotland play Northern Ireland. I think 2025 in March we would have a World Cup qualifier. So 2026 we could play either Scotland or Northern Ireland in March. I guess the only downside, it might get a little complicated if we were to draw any of them in the Euros or World Cup qualifications. But it'd be nice to have a home nations of sorts back. It's been a great couple of games. Met some really great people, either in Poland or Scotland, including John Bleasdale from the Scottish Football Forums podcast. Thanks for just saying hi, or that you listen to the podcast. Means a lot, especially as I've travelled on my own for both of these games. But it does go to prove you are never alone when away with England. Now, I mentioned about having a chat with CJ Joyner at the top of the episode, and I'm pleased to say, hey, joins us now. CJ, hello there.
Hello there, Russ.
Got back all safe and sound?
Yeah, I was on a 7:00 flight this morning, bright and early, and I've had enough time to do a bit of work, go to the gym, and I'm currently walking alongside the beautiful Coventry Canal.
Lovely.
Not a shopping trolley in sight on this stretch.
Isn't
it's a good place to be.
Isn't Coventry's canal, is that connected to like Birmingham's canal? Isn't that long, like supposedly longer than Venice's?
I think so, yeah. They're very scenic. Yeah.
Culture, you get it all here on Three Lions podcast.
You do, yes, you do, yeah.
Anyway, we've spoken before, obviously, but we've spoken about the good work that Block 109 have done previously. And I know that you've been out, we've been out the country for quite a while, and in which time that you've done a couple of healthy deeds on behalf of Block 109. Yeah. Go on, just talk us through what happened.
So in Rocklaw, we through various different means we raise money through our prize draw each month, and we have random fundraisers. I'll talk about a bit more about one of them in particular in a minute. And we sell badges, we have events, so we always have a little bit of a surplus after an event. So we had the Malta boat, that created a surplus of a couple of £100. And there was a party on Friday night in Rocklaw at Bar Wembley.
I heard all about that.
Yeah. So that was a good night, and we raised maybe £150. I think there's a surplus of that. So it all goes into the fundraising part, maybe into trying to make future events a little bit cheaper as well, potentially. But it's gone into the fundraising pot at the moment. And what we did, we contacted a children's cancer unit in Wrocław, and they were more than happy to talk to us, obviously, and see what we could do for them. And we donated them, a few different things like colouring books that were in both English and Polish, like story books, so they can learn the English and then the Polish. And then also some tablet computers, some Android tablet computers.
Oh, wow.
But yeah. So it meant that they could keep in touch with their families back home. This unit operates for children up to the age of 18. some of the headline things that are quite they really do take you back. For example, I think there's 1,200 children a year that get diagnosed with cancer in Poland, and they're about half of them. I think it's just over 50. Well, it's just over half, just over 50%, are under the age of 5. So it's really kind of harrowing, really,
Absolutely,
to think that a child of that age could be going through that, and the numbers that unfortunately fall foul of it. So but it's a wonderful work what they do. There's a link on our on Block 109's Twitter account. You can just click on and you can see what they're doing there. If you want to, there is a donate button on their website, I think, if you wanted to do something for them. And yeah, they do just wonderful work, and that they help a lot of people. I think they've got maybe 5 or 6 centres across Poland. They're not government funded really, but what they do get, they link in with their version of the NHS.
Okay.
And Poland has a system where 1.5% of your earnings, it effectively you can get that sent to a charity.
That's interesting.
So it's a national scheme. So 1.5%, you can select 1.5% of those earnings to go. And I think they were something like the 15th charity that was accepted for it. And there's quite a few charities that are on board now. They're one of the most popular ones, I believe. Just, it's a very worthy cause, really. So that they were more than happy to take the things from us, and they were very grateful. And the tablets themselves, obviously, they're kind of like the headline items, I suppose. They'll help them keep in touch with the families at home. They're still very jumpy about COVID. So the chap that we met, really nice guy called Mikkel, he's been there for he's been there for a month.
Yeah.
And he's only been in the unit once. The office is kind of the other side of this. It's almost like this new build housing estate, and they've got like an office block. The other side of there is where the hospital is, but their office is away from there. He's only been there once, and he had to full mask, full gown and all that sort of thing. So it's rare that anybody can actually go in there. So it's a shame really that we couldn't go and interact with them, but it's perfectly understandable.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But it also means they can only have one parent with them. And obviously if they're there for 6, 9, 12 months living there, mum or dad will go in there, and then generally the higher earning parent will continue to work. Yeah. And that could be mum or dad. So, and there's going to be siblings at home that need to go to school as well. So, grandparents, cousins, and everybody else, aunties and uncles that they need to keep in touch with. So, the tablets will help with sort of video calls home. But hopefully, it'll be a great benefit to them. And we're and again, it's just down to generous people like the number one England podcast host that has chipped in, constantly over the last few years.
Pleased to do it.
Good people like yourself, Russ.
No, thank you. I'm not the only one, obviously. What was their reaction to a group of English football fans wanting to do this? Were they, I don't know, sceptical or anything? What was their reaction?
They just said they were very taken back by it. They didn't expect it.
Yeah.
So I think maybe they didn't know the game was taking place.
No, of course, yeah.
I did get the impression over there that from some of the people that we spoke to, some people didn't know that the game was actually happening. So, and that's when we were there. So, for us to contact, a random hospital several weeks before the game itself, it was probably something that thought, oh, okay, this is a bit strange. What game's happening or what have you? So.
Oh, well, they...
so we're...
good.
Yeah.
It seemed to be overwhelmed with it. And then, obviously, the game, but then you moved on to Scotland and done a similar good deed.
Yeah, so the West of Scotland Cricket Club.
Wonderful
It's
place.
It is, yeah. And if anybody wants to know more, there's a website, and there's also episode 66 of your podcast that you can go to. I mean, it'll tell you all you need to know, basically. Hosted the first few Scottish Cup finals. So it's quite a significant location for Rangers, and also for just football in general, because it was the host of the first international match between England and Scotland. Very much of the theme of the Euros a couple of years ago. It finished 0-0. I'm not sure what the game was like. So I don't know who played well and who didn't.
Yeah, I think totally different in its in the way they played.
Yeah, absolutely, completely different. So so I don't think much is known about the game itself. I don't even know if there's any pictures or anything like that. I mean, it was just early days of photography, wasn't it, back then? And but either way, the building itself there, it's they're having a few problems. I think they had a bit of a flood, and they're trying to kind of rebuild. But I contacted them. Spoke to a guy called Colin, who is the chairman. I think he may be the guy that you spoke to on the pod. Actually, I'm not sure. He mentioned to me that that they've got this fund, this restoration fund, and they're looking at a few other things as well. And I said, well, one of the things we did think of is, do you have a defibrillator? And he said, no, but we'd like one. And he said, well, we'll buy you one. So we donated them a defibrillator, similar to what we did in Malta, for the Ronald McDonald's House, and it's got the club a fair bit of exposure. And hopefully it's one of these things that will never be used. It's one of these things that you buy and you hope it's a waste of money, because that means it's never used. And but if it's there anyway, it's peace of mind going forward. They do play a lot of cricket there still, so it's for the use of that. And also, once they get their building sorted and everything else, they can get a case, put it there, and it can go on the national database. So it's the use of the local public as well. They do have a garden centre there that's quite popular. So it's it's a multi-use venue, and it's open all day, every day. So it can be used for it could be used for the public off the street, for example, if there was suddenly an emergency. Within a few hundred meters of that venue, it could be one of the ones that gets used. So so it's something that, like I said, hopefully it never gets used, but if it does, it would potentially, it will save somebody's life.
Great stuff, excellent. And obviously, if people want to help to contribute towards that, then the draw is the best way to do that, and just head to the Block 109 on Twitter. You'll get all the details there, or get in touch with yourself.
There is a number of different ways as well. Like we have, there was young George who was running a marathon during the last week of his summer holidays. Speaking to his dad, Mark, who's actually ran 50 marathons himself.
Whoa.
And he, well, not in the same week, but he's done them over a number of years. And he spoke to George, and George, he's 9 years old, and he wanted to do something. So, and he was at the game in Rocklaw, and he said he'd run a marathon over a week. So he ran 6K for 7 days, which is 42K, 26 miles.
Marvellous.
And he was aiming to raise 100 quid. He's raised, I think, over 500. So that's pretty much about sort of like 2/3 to 3/4 of the way towards funding the full amount that we paid in for, well, that we needed to raise for what we bought for the guys in Rocklaw. So it's something that obviously he's had a big impact on, and he's got a few things in line coming up for the North Macedonia game, I believe, or maybe the games next year. So it's something worth keeping an eye on.
Oh well, we shall see what George comes up with. But go on, just coming back from the two games, what's your quick take on the Ukraine game and the Scotland game?
I think the Ukraine game was very frustrating. there's a lot of players that you could usually say we could rely on that just weren't quite at the races for one reason or another. Maybe one player's performance can affect the next person, then that can have a knock on the next person, and so on. I mean, Maddison just seemed to be getting very frustrated, and he was very frustrated at the end. Well, it's probably like 35 minutes in for that booking. That's
silly.
To our kind of on our right in front of us. So that was, that was. I mean, he was probably living dangerously there. I mean, maybe an inch the other way, and it could have been a red, really, especially with VAR there. But and then there was the Chilwell. I mean, he's played so well before, and he just seemed just not at the races at all, just putting the ball out of play. And then there was Jude, who obviously is raw, but I mean, he's just fantastic, isn't he?
Absolutely.
But that night would be not the best night he's had. And then there was, I mean, Rice as well. So another one that we can normally depend on. He was just putting the ball out of place for sloppy passes. And it was like chalk and cheese compared to the game last night. I thought Jude and Rice were just fantastic. The two of them just played together so well. That those two players will win us things together. Rice, there's very few players in the world better than him in his position. And Jude, there may be some players better than him at the moment, but there's very few of them now, and they've probably been playing for 5 or 6 years longer than he has. And he's probably going to be overtaking them very soon. And what he's doing at Real Madrid is just sensational, really.
Amazing, isn't it? Pulling up trees there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think with what we saw last night, I feel a lot more positive than what I did when I walked out the ground in Rocklaw. The atmosphere was fantastic, both games. I've got to say the home section, as you call it, in Rocklaw was properly loud, wasn't it?
They were,
and, even more so last night. There's been a lot said about booing of the anthem. I hate it when people boo the anthem, be it ours or the opposition's. But yeah, I mean, it just added to the spice of the whole fixture. And yeah, we were. I think we rode the storm quite well when it comes to how intense it was. A few players could have actually been like deer in the headlights in that, or rabbit in the headlights when it came to that, but they didn't. And we kind of lost our way slightly around the time they scored, a few minutes after that. But overall, it was just a very good team performance, and I think we possibly would have beaten almost anybody that night. Really, I think everybody put a shift in and played very well.
Yeah, it was good that he was able to change a few players and come out on top still.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's and it bodes well for going forward, doesn't it, Russ?
It does. Going forward, we have Australia next month and Italy. Two both important games from different respects. So are you looking to do anything for 109 for those?
No, not necessarily for the home games, but we have got 1 or 2 plans coming for Macedonia. So there's 1 or 2 things coming for there, and we're going to have we're going to be supporting a good cause there. We're speaking to 1 or 2 at the moment, and then there's also there'll be 1 or 2 109 donations as well, £109 donations going to good causes here, including our good friend Trevor, who he was meant to be on the coach with Paul Dennis. So Paul has donated back the fee that Trevor paid, and that's and we've put in another 52 on top, so that makes 109, and that will be going to Prostate Cancer UK in his memory, and I'm sure there'll be plenty more people that will be putting in money in his memory as well, because he was a proper character, Trevor, and I was quite taken back by your the end of the last podcast that you did, Russ. I think it was a really touching tribute, and you did it very well.
Yeah, thank you very much, and very kind, and to put that in on his behalf, and on everyone's behalf. CJ, thank you very much for your time. Looks like you've had a nice stroll along the canals of Coventry there. I'll leave
Yeah,
you.
and as I said, not a shopping trolley in sight in this section. They're normally a bit further up towards Tesco's. So yeah,
Marvellous. Well, we'll stay in touch, and we'll speak soon.
Yeah, no problem. Cheers, Russ.
Thank you very much to CJ there. All very good to hear from him. And that kind of brings us to the end of this episode. Thanks for joining me. Hope you've enjoyed it. Taking a look back over the Ukraine game in Poland and the fabulous win over Scotland up in Glasgow. It's never a friendly, is it? It's always good to win that one. Same again next time, hopefully, when we play them. Don't forget you can follow the podcast on all your usual podcast providers of choice. And also you can find us on social media. Just search Three Lions Podcast. I'll be back with you very soon. I've got an episode coming up where we are talking about the World Cup of 2006. I hope you can join me for it. So until then, take care of yourselves. Cheers.